Richard Caldwell leaned back in the leather chair of his corner office, staring at the quarterly report. Numbers filled the pages. Profits, projections, percentages. To anyone else, the figures screamed success. But Richard couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in his chest. Something was wrong. He had built Caldwell Family Diners from the ground up. He knew what it felt like to sweep greasy floors, wash dishes until midnight, and smile at customers even when exhaustion gnawed at his bones. But those days were decades behind him. Now, his life was stockholders, board meetings, and press interviews. Lately, though, complaints had trickled in. Customer satisfaction was dropping. Turnover among waitstaff was higher than ever. Some diners whispered of managers pocketing money. The reports on his desk told one story. The people on the ground, he suspected, told another. Richard set the papers aside and rubbed his temples. If I want the truth, I need to see it myself. The idea terrified him and thrilled him all at once. He would go undercover. 2 weeks later, Rick Dalton walked into one of his busiest diners wearing a wig, glasses, and a pasted-on mustache. His crisp suits were replaced by thrift store jeans and a faded plaid shirt. To the staff, he was just another middle-aged man down on his luck, looking for a job. The woman assigned to train him was Emily. "Grab a notepad," she told him with a smile that didn't quite reach her tired eyes. "Mornings here are chaos." Emily moved like she was born balancing coffee cups and trays. Her ponytail swished behind her as she wove between tables, taking orders, refilling mugs, apologizing for delays. Richard struggled to keep up, fumbling with the register and forgetting which table ordered rye toast. But what struck him most wasn't her skill. It was the weariness etched into her face, the faint lines of someone far younger than she looked. During a short lull, he asked, "So, you been doing this long?" "Too long," Emily said with a half-laugh. "But bills don't pay themselves, right?" Richard chuckled, then asked carefully, "At least the tips make it worth it?" Emily's smile faded. She shrugged. "Tips don't even cover basic needs most days. Rent's going up, groceries too. Some nights I skip dinner so my little girl can eat. But that's life." She quickly excused herself to refill another table's coffee. Richard froze, his heart pounding. Her words echoed in his mind like a hammer. Tips don't even cover basic needs. Over the next week, Richard saw the cracks everywhere. Carl, the diner's manager, barked orders but never lifted a finger himself. He skimmed from the register when he thought no one noticed. He berated staff in front of customers, then smiled smugly as if daring anyone to report him. The kitchen equipment was outdated. The dishwasher broke down every other shift. Staff skipped breaks to keep up with the rush. And through it all, Emily kept moving. Smiling at customers, helping co-workers, covering shifts no one else wanted. One evening, they sat together during a 10-minute break. Emily pulled a crumpled envelope from her apron and sighed. "Overdue," she muttered, stuffing the notice back before Richard could see. Then, catching herself, she forced a smile. "Anyway, enough about me. How are you liking the job?" Richard wanted to tell her then, to rip off his disguise and say, "I'm not Rick. I'm Richard Caldwell, and I promise I'll fix this." But he bit his tongue. It wasn't time. Not yet. On the final day of his undercover shift, a customer snapped at Emily. "Useless waitress, can't even bring toast on time." Richard slammed the coffee pot onto the counter. "That's enough. She's doing her job." His voice shook with anger. Emily touched his arm, whispering, "Don't. It's not worth it." But Richard couldn't contain his fury anymore. That night, when Carl gathered the staff and began his usual tirade of insults, Richard stood tall. "Emily," he said quietly, "can you stay a minute after this? There's something I need to tell you." When the others dispersed, Richard reached up with trembling hands. He pulled off the mustache, the wig, the glasses. Gasps filled the room. Emily's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. "My name isn't Rick Dalton," he said. "I'm Richard Caldwell. I own this company." Silence. Carl's face turned pale. Sir, if I had known," Richard cut him off sharply. "If you had known, you'd have pretended to care. But I saw how you treat people. I saw you steal. I saw you humiliate staff who deserve respect. You're finished, effective immediately." Security escorted Carl out as the staff erupted in whispers. Then Richard turned to Emily. His voice softened. "You told me the truth. You didn't sugarcoat it. And because of you, everything changes." The next week, at a company-wide meeting, Richard announced sweeping reforms. Base pay for servers was raised so no one depended solely on tips. Healthcare and childcare support were introduced. Managers faced stricter accountability, and an employee council gave workers a direct voice in company decisions. For Emily, he offered more: a $50,000 bonus to clear her debts, a scholarship fund for her daughter Sophie, and a place in the leadership training program if she wanted it. Emily sobbed openly as her co-workers applauded. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," Richard told her gently, "and help me build the company these people deserve." Months later, headlines praised the transformation. Customer satisfaction soared. Employees spoke proudly of their jobs. Caldwell Diners became a symbol of corporate responsibility. One afternoon, Richard returned quietly to the same diner. This time, no disguise. He slid into a booth and ordered coffee and toast. Emily approached, wearing a crisp new uniform with the confidence of someone who finally stood tall. "On the house," she said with a grin, placing the plate in front of him. Richard chuckled. "Careful, or I'll think you're spoiling me." Emily leaned on the counter, her eyes warm. "No, Mr. Caldwell, you spoiled us long enough. Now it's our turn to rise." He lifted his cup, clinking it gently against her glass of iced tea. To new beginnings. And for the first time in years, Richard Caldwell wasn't thinking about numbers on a page. He was thinking about people, and the company finally built on their dignity.